Hello there, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Ashley Hunt, and thank you so much for joining me for this webinar on the Project Management Institute, Retiring the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. It's kind of a little bit of a retirement party today. Good to see everybody, and again, thank you for joining me on a Friday. I know you all are busy, so I appreciate it. And as we go through the webinar today, any questions that you might have, anything that you want to know about what's going on, feel free to chat that in. But before we even get started, how many of you are in the process of getting PMP certified? I know I need cake. Somebody bring cake, virtual cake. But how many of you are in the process of pursuing your PMP right now or CAPM? Okay, so Sherry, yes, hi. CAPM, the Certified Associate in Project Management. I will touch on that as well because right now the CAPM is based on the 6th edition, but they're going to update that exam as well. So we're going to stay tuned for that. I'll circle back on that. Hi, Chris. I feel like I'm always in the process of pursuing. That is what it feels like. Feels like that for me as well. But as far as the 6th edition is concerned, it's one of those situations where the Project Management Institute is constantly practicing continuous improvement. They're looking at what's going on in the industries in project management and how different people are using different tools. Sherry's too, yeah. It's true. Let me ask you this. How many of you are more on the predictive or traditional waterfall side of things, if you will, and or hybrid slash agile? Because one of the reasons why the 6th edition is being retired is because of this push toward more hybrid or agile project management, or at least having strategies to utilize no matter what types of projects you're working on. All right, so we've got hybrid, predictive. I think I just need to focus and get over my fear. Don't be scared. Don't be scared, Chris. You got this. Hello from Rossland. Good, good. Audrey, traditional waterfall, but making changes. Would like to incorporate hybrid. Awesome. Hi, Pam. Just starting out, so learning about it all. Perfect. Hybrid, Chris. Okay, so you can see that we've got a variety of different answers. And that's really the entire reason why the Project Management Institute started down this road of, the times that all change. And hi, our company is split half company waterfall, half agile. How's that going? Or is it more split on purpose because of the types of projects that, some benefit from predictive, some benefit from agile? Or is it like, look, we're trying to go agile here, but we have stakeholders that are like, no, I would like the Gantt chart, depending on the departments. That makes sense. Joe, same half and half, depending on department. Yeah, because if you're in IT or, versus government or something like that, it definitely depends on the types of projects. So this is really where project management is trending, the ability to tailor your projects to the need. Department and customer, Joe's saying. That makes sense. And that's really why this is happening. Because the PMBOK Guide 6th edition, actually, the PMBOK guides from the 1st edition were really based with their beginnings in the industrial age, right? So it was best practices for predictive project management. And then boom, 1995 and forward, we started seeing software development, automating systems, and so on. But it was like these two different factions of project management. Oh, you software developers, you use some framework under the Agile umbrella. Everybody else uses predictive. And we're starting to see, with technology and the way things are going, that there's room for both. Agile's not just for software development anymore. What industry are you all on? In, not on, but in. What industries are you in? Because sometimes the industry is going to drive the types of project management you utilize. You've got maybe a government or compliance, regulations, things, documentation, contracts, things that still benefit from that predictive environment. Education technology, hey, and yeah. Medical design, awesome Joe, real estate Pam, local government being Cancer Institute Natalie. Yeah, so in those industries can benefit from a bit of tailoring, or no, look, we got to do full-blown predictive. And that's the conversation. And I've been getting state government share. Yeah, so maybe that more predictive or depending on department. And that's why we're doing this today, because I've gotten a ton of questions. We're going through the PMP classes to gear people up for the exams, and they're like, what PMBOK do I study? And the answer is neither really, because the exam content outline is more based on a variety of different books. So we'll talk about that too. Education technology here as well, Chris. Well, good. Well, thanks for joining. The project management body of knowledge started in the 60s. I think the first one came out in 1970, and things have changed. And so what the Project Management Institute does is every couple of years or so, they'll send out what's called a role delineation study. And that study is really a survey to find out what people are utilizing on their projects. And they started to see this trend of daily stand-up meetings and retrospectives and things like that. And they went, bing, a light bulb went off like, whoa, that's not what we're promoting here for predictive project management. So they started dipping their toe into Agile. They joined forces with the Agile Alliance. The Agile Alliance was a group of 17 software developers, many of whom created things like Scrum. Maybe have you heard of Scrum or extreme programming, that kind of thing. And when the sixth edition came out, PMI said, okay, we're going to have an Agile practice guide. That's going to be for the teams that are in the messy middle ground. Let's just dip our toe in. And they also created the Agile Certified Practitioner exam as well, which is a variety of best practices from multiple frameworks. So we're kind of like all over the map trying to be all to everybody. And then they decided, you know what? We're going to go away from prescriptive project management and try and create standards and processes that might work for any project. And that's where the seventh edition. So we're going to talk about what's next. The seventh edition is already out. Have any of you seen it? Have you seen the seventh edition yet, or the sixth edition? Anybody lay eyes on the project management bodies of knowledge between the sixth and the seventh yet? If not, that's okay. We're going to talk about, can I still get a sixth edition? How do I get the seventh edition? That kind of thing. But the sixth edition project management body of knowledge, it doesn't go away. It's not like PMI saying, oh no, we're never doing predictive project management ever again. What they did instead was develop what are called standards plus. And I'm curious how this will impact earning PDUs for individuals who have already earned their PMP. Well, the one thing that they're doing now is they're changing the talent triangle to better reflect people, process, business environment. So instead of technical project management, leadership, and business environment, they changed the talent triangle recently, actually, to way of working, which is a disciplined agile terminology. PMI acquired the framework of disciplined agile. Power, which I find a little weird, but that's more the leadership. And then business acumen. So it doesn't really affect professional development units. It's still going to be the same process of collecting education webinars, things like that, and placing them in the right piece of the talent triangle. So new things, agile is going to count, that kind of thing. Whatever you were doing for PDUs will not be affected by this change. Hi, Chris. Would you suggest pursuing the CAPM before the PMP? Well, let me answer a question with a question. How much experience in project management do you have? Do you have 3+ years of project management experience? Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you relieved it. If you do, I would go for the PMP. 10+, PMP. 100%. And we'll talk about the course as well, but it's 50% agile, 50% predictive. You do not need to have experience in one or the other. Yeah, you're welcome. The sixth edition, how these changes affect the PMP exam. The PMP exam's been changed. It's out, and what we're teaching toward is that new exam. The seventh edition, the project management body of knowledge, how it aligns with the new PMP rather than just like the sixth edition. So it came out in August, almost a year ago, 2021, the seventh edition, as a way to really provide guidance in strategies rather than set processes. And it definitely it flip-flops back and forth between agile, predictive, and hybrid, but it starts with standards and then it gets into the actual what they might consider the project management body of knowledge. But there's so many supporting materials. And what I'm seeing in that industry is an ecosystem being built where it's not just study the book, pass the exam, possibly never use half of the things that were in the book in the project management body of knowledge, but get the cert. Now what they're trying to do is say, all right, well, here's some strategies, best practices, things like that. And we also have what are called standards. But as far as the sixth edition is concerned, you can still access it right now, even though it's quote unquote being sunsetted, retired. You can still, while supplies last, they say, buy one. If you wanted to go on the Amazons of the world, if you want to buy it from PMI, you can do that. If you are a member of the Project Management Institute currently, you can still download the sixth edition and you can download the seventh edition as a PDF. Do I have any members in here of the Project Man? It sounds like some of you are just gearing up and some of you are trying to maintain your PMP. Yeah, okay, good. If you are a member, you can go and download the PMBOK guides in PDF format. And at this point, it's the sixth with the Agile Practice Guide and then the seventh edition as more of strategies. And if you're a member, you have access to PMIStandards Plus. And we're going to talk about that as well. Yep, you have the online and physical edition of the sixth. Awesome. And it's still relevant. And that's kind of the confusing piece is, oh, predictive is off the... No, it's not. Instead, what they did is say, here's your strategies in the seventh edition, and here are the standards. And I'll show you the list of the standards that are currently out there. If you're gearing up for a certification process, then it's something that I recommend in class to join because then you get a discount on your exam. Plus, you can download all of these materials that otherwise might cost some money. Oh, good, and congratulations. And Santa passed with above target scores. No, you did that. You did all the hard work. So congratulations. That's awesome. So now you're trying to maintain. That's awesome. And as far as PMI is concerned, their members, membership houses benefits. You have access to that ecosystem. And I think it's cool because itemized learning or targeted learning, because we don't have enough time to really just learn tons of information that's not applicable to our projects or our day-to-day. Instead, we can do a deeper dive into some of these standards and then have strategies that we can utilize from that seventh edition. So if you haven't read through it, it's much shorter than the sixth edition. It's not organized the same way. It's a very different approach to strategies and project management rather than processes and tools. It's more, hey, in this situation, much more focused on leadership, agility, tailoring your projects to different types of scope of work and how to manage that scope of work. But the standards move from process to principles. So sixth edition is standard, seventh edition is principles and strategies, Kelly's. Yeah, yep, exactly. So it's a very different read. It's a very different vibe. And it's much shorter because it's based on actions, behaviors, performance domains like leadership, communication, servant leadership, so they're really taking that sort of agile mentality and applying it to all different types of projects. That doesn't replace our scope statements or our work breakdown structures, if that's what you're using. Now you're going to find the deeper dives on those types of items in the standards rather than the PMBOK guide. So instead of tools or techniques, there's models, methods, different artifacts. How many of you use that term artifact? Is that something that you use in your... Because I always think of an artifact as something that got dug out of the ground and ends up in a museum, right? But an artifact in a project is actually a tangible thing that you utilize, your backlog, your schedules, anything that you utilize on your projects. Anne's asking, as a PMP holder, do you feel it would be beneficial to take a 7th edition prep course to earn PDUs and understand the new structure? It would absolutely count toward professional development units. There's still going to be that predictive aspect of it because the actual course itself, and this is where all the confusion lies why I'm doing this, is that the course is based on an exam content outline. It's not based on the 7th edition. So the 7th edition they're looking at is more practical application rather than testability. The new exam is 50% agile, 50% predictive. So if you're looking for the agile side, yeah, you could certainly take it, but at the same time, I would almost more recommend like the Agile Certified Practitioner, something like that, because it sounds like you got the predictive, PMP side of things. If you're looking for a different structure, that would be more on the Agile side of things rather than the course being the course. We're authorized training partners. So PMI gives us their official content. And their take on all of this is the exam is based on an exam content outline. Some of that information can be found in the 6 or the PMIStandards Plus. Other information can be found in the Agile Practice Guide, plus 12 other books that we don't have time to read. So it's not based on the 7th edition, like at all. Some of the concepts are in there, but it's not a 7th edition PMBOK guide. You're welcome. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm doing this. I get a ton of questions, individual emails. So I thought, let's just talk about it and answer your questions. But 8 performance domains instead of tools, techniques, and so on. It's more methods. So we'll go through just a comparative approach. Like I said, the official content that we teach as authorized training partners is definitely got a lot in it, rather than let's just find it all in one book. And I think that they're trying to get away from the PMBOK guide as the end all be all. And there are all these other resources out there for adaptability on your projects, right? So the 6th edition is prescriptive, not descriptive. Those of you that read the PMBOK, that's why you took a class, right? To try and explain and navigate all these inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs, and those types of things. And there's an emphasis on how, not what or why. Why would we use this? Why is this important? And so the 7th edition is more principles to guide a mindset, actions, and behaviors. So it's really designed for any life cycle. And I don't know about, for those of you that have taken a class or have your PMP or you took your CAPM, when you went through that, a lot of what we talk about is and still do, what I call perfect world project management. There are things that we discuss in that class where people say that would never work for me. For some, it's on the agile side. For some, it's on the predictive side. And so it's always this, here's a best practice that you need to know for the exam, but, oh, I can't use it in the real world. Or, oh, hey, I learned something new. And yes, I can. And so it's a very different approach to explaining life cycles and how project managers utilize different strategies to build their team to execute the work across multiple industries. The 6th edition, if you've read through it, you know that they have inputs. What do I need before I can? Tools or techniques. What am I going to use to? Things like critical path, because that's a fun day. And then the outputs of baselines and documents and just heavy documentation and a little bit of agile influencing factors, or here's just a quick blurb on tailoring. And so it's process focused and more compliance driven for that predictive environment. Whereas on the 7th edition, it's more domains of, interacting with independent of activities. So you're interacting with your team regardless of whatever those activities specific to your industries happen to be, and focus on outcomes rather than just deliverables. Anne's saying, yes, this is one of the hardest part of the exam, understanding how it would work in a perfect world when you have a lot of years of experience that say perfect isn't possible. Well, because you were in class with me, right? I'm like, this is perfect world. This is more real world. And that is what makes the exam difficult. It's still a difficult exam. There's just a completely different vibe to it. And I believe that's because people, process, business environment, and having that agile take on things, it's difficult because you got to flip-flop back and forth between different types of frameworks, predictive, etc. But at the same time, it's a lot more based on situations. You are a project manager, this is going on, what do you do? And that's why the 6th edition, they sort of looked at that as most projects most of the time. Whereas the 7th edition are strategies that they are saying can be used or implemented on any project. Not everything. Nobody's going to use everything all the time. But at least those strategies like servant leadership and building a team and collaboration, reaching consensus, those types of things that we're really seeing, in our projects these days, regardless of the framework. The sixth edition was really designed for project managers, and the project management professional, PMP. But they're basically saying now that the seventh edition can be for anybody involved. So they're trying to get that team dynamic, self-directed, self-managed teams, servant leadership. It really is a lot of agile mentalities. For those of you that do hybrids, would you say you're more on the predictive side or more on the agile side? When you are running projects, would you say that you're practicing more agility, but you're still reporting to stakeholders in a predictive way? Because that's sort of the challenge right now. More agile, not only saying the challenge right now is saying, hey, we want to go do agile best practices more often, but a lot of times it's from the bottom up for project managers. Ooh, I want to try, a daily stand-up meeting. Oh, I think we retrospectives, but you've got the stakeholders who are like, well, how's your baseline doing? Are you sticking to the budget? How long did it actually take? How much did it actually cost? And so we're sort of tug of war between these, hybrid types of frameworks. So that's another reason why the seventh edition can be helpful. Incremental revisions based on previous editions, that was the MO of the PMBOK Guide all the way through. Since the 1970s, hey, we're adding more things. Critical path has been there since the dawn of time. Earned value. But now they're saying, okay, look, we get it. You've got software. So it's important on the predictive side to understand the result of earned value analysis, but we're not going to put formulas on the exam anymore. Score. Woohoo! No more formulas because software does it for us. But then on the seventh edition, it's like, here are the principles to follow in order to be effective no matter what. And, that's questionable. You're going to get from it what you put into it or what you take from it. There is a lot. It's not prescriptive, like do step 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's just, hey, in this situation, these are the standards. These are the types of things that we're going to utilize to be the best project managers we can be, or the best agile practitioners that we can be. The sixth edition references tailoring, as in, oh, this project would benefit more from agile. Let me ask you this, because I ask my PM peers this all the time. How many of you have, I hesitate to use the word power or ability, to look at your individual projects and then decide, this is going to be better served running it in a predictive environment. This one is going to be better served running it in an agile environment. How many of you are able to tailor or sort of flip-flop back and forth based on the needs of the project? Do you have that ability? Because some people would say, yeah, it depends on the project. We're hybrid. We can pull that off. Others will say, not really. Not at all. Or, haha, I wish. Right? So the seventh edition sort of goes with this mentality that we can all do that. So it doesn't necessarily apply specifically to how would you do that. It's more, hey, you could do this. So it really will depend on, and that's why the course is not based on the seventh edition. That is why the course is based on an exam content outline that's broken out by 3 domains: people, process, and business environment. And the standards plus really have a lot more to do with like a 6th edition mentality, how to create a schedule, how to manage risk, how to create a PMO, how to deal with change control. I'll show you the list. They're adding more to them all the time, but it allows for an itemized version. It's one of the reasons, if you've never taken a class with me or with us before, we record by topic. And the reason we do that is so that when you go back to review, you can cherry pick the topics that you want to review. You don't have to fast forward through, however many hours of class to try and find that one thing that you were looking for about risk. It's the same practice here with the standards. I don't want to have to read an entire PMBOK guide just to find out about X in scope of work. Instead, now you can cherry pick and go through the standards to determine what's going to work for you, your project, or what information you need to support that. So right now, the practice standards that are currently available, practice standard for estimating, for scheduling. Notice the trend toward predictive, work breakdown structures, portfolios, risk management, practice standard for configuration management, the competency development frameworks. So this allows us to cherry pick and go through and say, you know what? My boss just asked me to create a Gantt chart. My boss just asked me to figure out Kanban boards. I don't know how to do that, and an entire PMBOK guide isn't going to help me learn that. So instead, I can go through and look at these practice standards. Have those of you that are members, have you checked these out yet? They're pretty comprehensive. I was like, whoa, okay. Because if you were to put them all into a PMBOK guide, plus the PMBOK guide would be like this big. Oh, no, that's too much. So those standards allow us to go through. But they also provide some supporting information, like how do we realize benefits, the Agile Practice Guide, governance. You see governance a lot. Business analysts for practitioners of business analysis, navigating complexity, managing changes in organizations. So they, PMI, are really trying, and that's okay. I know, Kelly, there's so many resources. That's what Kelly's saying. So many resources will make your head spin. And to be honest, I haven't looked at it yet. That's okay. And it's there. If you're a member, it's there. You can choose to use it. You can choose to read through it and go, that won't work for me. Or, hey, ding, 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 I got some good information. The light bulb just went off. So it's a ton of information. And like I said, they're building out this ecosystem where they have discipline agile, they've got PMP, they have CAPM, they have ACP, they've got all these things going on. Pam, hi, I'm really just starting out, so I'm not even sure where to start. My best advice would be in a like the class, in a PMP type of class where we go through a lot of the best practices. And it's geared toward the exam, but my classes, I definitely go back and forth between real world, perfect world. How do you use this? What might work for you? And then that gives you a good baseline of what do I know? What do I not know? What do I want to learn more about? So that you can go back in. Because otherwise, if you're just digging through, you're right. It is so many resources. Your head will be like, whoa, so much information. But if you maybe take a class or maybe take the ACP class or whatever you're interested in, that gives you sort of that baseline to say, what of these things are more necessary to support my career goals in my day-to-day project management? So I know it's a ton. And that's why I'm doing this, because I know it's confusing. Kelly, how long is the class good for before taking the exam? I took your class last March and still haven't taken the exam. Oh yeah, life gets in the way. Last March, was because I'm sorry, was it the people, process, business environment? Was it the official content, or was it more predictive? If it was the official content, you're good to go. Your credits, if you will, don't ever expire. The official, all right, you're fine. You're fine. Your credits don't expire at all. What does expire is if you submit your application after 1 year, they're like, you gotta, do it again. You've got to fill out your application again, but that's it. Otherwise, your credits count. Yeah, awesome. Contact hours do not expire. Perfect. You're good to go. And I always tell people, if you don't know me or if you've never been in a class with me before, I always give out my email address. People have emailed me from 2 years ago. Hey, I'm gearing up now, or I want to take the ACP or something like that. So please feel free to email me and we'll chat in my email address, but it's Ashley, ASHLEY.HUNT@stormwindlive.com, because I always tell people, hey, look, reach out to me when you're gearing up for the exam if it's been a while, to ask me if PMI's changed anything, if they've updated anything. That way, okay, what I took is still legit. I don't have to worry about any big changes. I just got to dig in and study. Or, I don't know that I'm ready for this yet, but maybe 6 or 7 months from now, I feel like I can jump in. I've got time. Just reach out to me via email, even if you're not a student, and ask me, hey, what's changed? What's going on? What do I need to know? Great, my boss has approved a 2 years packet. Oh, awesome, Pam. Welcome. Perfect. Kelly, I take these webinars every couple months. Perfect. And I'll give you the info. I'll give you the deets. You're fine. Even if you're not a part of the Stormwind family yet, I'm here for you. But the PMI Standards Plus is a digital solution for instant access to their standards. And they also have like videos, templates, and this is the head spinning part, is not only do they have these PDFs for download, they've got templates, searchable things, content by industry, knowledge checks. So there is quite a bit out there, and digging through it all, and even for myself looking through all of it, I'm like, wow, okay, that's a ginormous ecosystem. What do we need? And this is all supporting sort of that people, process, and business environment type of thing. I do know, speaking of PDUs, some of their videos and those kinds of things also count toward professional development units. So if you're a member, you might as well take advantage, right? So here's the deal with the exam. Originally, we're like, okay, it's the 7th edition project management body of knowledge, so it must be the 7th edition exam content. It's not. It is based on an exam content outline. Now, there are contributing factors from 7th and 6th, but they're calling those standards right now. Pam, I've used about 6 months to catch up on some other programming things. Now I'm ready to learn about the exam. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the incorporation of Agile is a big, huge change on this exam. And it's weird because like PMI normally would push out a role delineation study, an updated PMBOK guide, and then the exam. This time, they did a role delineation study, brand new exam, and then pushed out the 7th edition. And I think they did that because they didn't want people to think that the exam was based on the 7th edition. They're like, no, this is separate. This is the exam content information, but the 7th edition is good for your practical application on projects. And so the official content is focusing on standards rather than process. We talk about a lot of process, though. I mean, that's an absolute statement that isn't absolutely true. We do talk a lot about process. It goes back and forth between predictive, hybrid, and agile project management. The incorporation of agile is now 50% of the exam. And that's scary for some because they are like, look, I don't know agile very well, or I'm agile, I don't know predictive very well. One of the things that I do is when I look at that official content, it seems to me that there are a lot of assumptions about what everybody knows. So I get people in the PMP class that had no experience in agile whatsoever. So if you start throwing terms out like you got to know what a review is or what a scrum master is, and they don't have experience in agile, that can be very discouraging for people. So one thing that I did is I took their content and I teach it by topic, just like they outline it. And then I go into like deep dive mastery types of information that I record. PMI doesn't allow us to record their official content. And that's difficult for those of you that are going in to learn, right? Why can't I go back and review? Because they want you to go to PMI.org. But at the same time, I wouldn't be doing my job helping you meet your career goals, your professional goals, if I didn't help you understand the content that you're going to get tested on. So with that being said, with the authorized training content that we have, we teach the official content, and then I do deep dive masteries that are recorded to really break out some of these more in-depth topics like risk management. It's a biggie. What is agile? What's a user story? What's a backlog? Some of these things that may not be part of your world, but then you're going to be asked questions on them, and then maybe try and implement some of these things in your day-to-day. So I definitely wanted to expand the offering to give you or get to you all the information that you need to be successful, whether you use it in the real world or not. The new exam is broken down into 3 domains. It used to just be based on the life cycle of a predictive project, essentially. They called them process groups: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and controlling, and closure. And what are called bodies of knowledge or knowledge areas, things like scope and schedule and cost and so on. Now they've changed it and compartmentalized it into people, process, and business environment. The process piece, it's got a lot of different variations in it. It's got the Agile Practice Guide. It's got the parts of the PMIStandards Plus, because it's no longer the 6th edition, parts of the 7th edition. But they're like 13 other books that they recommend, a lot of which are agile, discipline agile, which PMI has acquired, different types of project management, building out portfolios. There's a lot of different contributing factors to the content, so you can't find it all in one place. Well, you can with me. You can find it all in one place with me. But to try and navigate all that content and figure it all out is very difficult. So you get the baseline. That goes back to that question like, hey, how do I do this? Yeah, there is a list of recommended books, definitely on PMI.org. I also hand it out in class so that you have a list of those reference books if you want to go through and read them. If you've never been out to PMI.org, you go out to PMI.org. Oh, thank you, Natalie. I appreciate, no, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. But if you go out to www.pmi.org, if you haven't been out there, go to certifications and then go to PMP. And that landing page, there'll be links to the exam content outline, reference books, what to expect. Should I retake the class? Last was August, September. Was it this, People, Process, and Business Environment, or was it more 6th edition? You're welcome. If it wasn't the same content that we're covering right now, should you retake the class? I don't know. You know what, Sherry? Why don't you shoot me an email, ashley.hunt@stormwindlive.com, and just let me know, what content, 6th and some 7th. Okay, if it was some 7th and if it was broken down like this, I would say it might not be necessary to take the class, but we can certainly have an offline conversation and discuss the options just to see, because I would hate for you to have to go through it all over again. It's painful enough the first time to go through it all again. So I'd rather just give you some advice, offline. So definitely send me an email and we'll go through it. My intuition is saying no, but I also want to make sure you pass the exam. So there you go. But either way, and those are the types of conversations, you're welcome, that I have with my students. I mean, I get hundreds of emails every single week. And so I want to make sure that you get the information that you need to be successful. So how the 7th edition guide aligns the PMP exam, if you will, following this change. The exam is based on the exam content outline, not the PMBOK guide. Either one of them. The 7th edition describes perfect world scenarios. And I threw in the perfect because it's true. The 6th edition is process only, but you can still get that. Like I said, predictive project management isn't going anywhere. Hasn't gone anywhere since the 30s. So it's still applicable in a lot of industries. There are a lot of you that are still doing predictive project management. Now, maybe you have a little bit of an aspect of a retrospective or a stand-up meeting, or we're trying to get more agile. We're trying to have these conversations. And so it's helpful either way to do the deep dives in class. Chris, it's such a universal skill, both professionally and personally. Absolutely. And there are certain things that my predictive brain still latches onto in certain situations. And then in others, I'm like full-blown agile. If I never see a Gantt chart again, I'm a happy camper. I mean, really, the task boards, Kanban board have absolutely changed the way that I do things forever, the way that I schedule forever. So just knowing and learning some of these things throughout my career, it's not just about certification for me. It's about learning how to do these things so that I can implement them in my day-to-day. And that's sort of what I want for you. It's not sort of, it is what I want for you guys. I managed a $7 million technology project and graduation parties. Yeah, see, it's true. Somebody planned their wedding using a Kanban board after learning how to do it in class. I was like, you go, Somebody else was like, can I put my honeydew list on there? I said, oh yeah, your significant other will be so impressed. But that's, this is the ecosystem. This is the confusion. This is, almost too much information, which is why I recommend, go through the class, get the information that they're presenting as best practices, and then say, all right, I'm going to go through the mastery recordings, because I do them live, but they are recorded. I'm going to go back through that again if I need to, or I'm going to go into the standards and say, yoink, that's what I need to, plan a $7 million project versus a graduation party. Because we adapt. It is a universal skill. Everything, because people are, well, what industry is project management? Every industry needs a project manager. Every single one. What if you have a cybersecurity attack? Well, guess what? There is a project manager of some kind involved in trying to make sure, whether your title is IT or software developer or whatever it is, there has to be some kind of plan to deal with that, right? So the exam is based on the exam content outline, not based on the seventh edition. And that's because they really want to make sure that those best practices, even at a surface level, are there for your advantage in a global market. So they became much more, focused on diversity and global economies and doing business in different countries. Those types of things are definitely really prevalent at a high level in the official content and a more of a deep dive in some of the mastery content. But take an official course, supplemental information is definitely out there. I am constantly trying to improve the program that you go through. I'm constantly trying to make sure that whatever is no longer relevant gets removed, what is relevant gets added. I'm keeping my eye on things. If anything changes with PMI, we find out right away because we're authorized training partners. So if they do any updates to content or the exam or anything like that, we'll know. Now, speaking of the CAPM, if you did decide to do that, the Certified Associate in Project Management was designed for coordinators or people that were new to project management, just really needed to learn the language or some of the processes to help support project managers. And that was solely 6th edition PMBOK Guide. So I just got an email a couple days ago where PMI said, look, before the end of the year, we're going to update the CAPM to better reflect that springboard to the PMP. So I have every anticipation that the CAPM is also going to have agile concepts in it. The CompTIA Project Plus is also being updated with a lot more, IT, agile, that kind of thing. It really is the wave of the future. It's not going anywhere. So, as authorized training partners with all of that, we would have the most up to date information. If you join PMI, then you get access to all those materials or at least get a discount, on the exam. They'll give you that too. But having access to webinars, professional development units, those types of things outside of what we're doing here, that combo approach can help you maintain your cert as well. Do you have any questions before we go any further? I didn't anticipate this was going to take your entire hour because, it's a Friday and it's really just not like super, super in-depth information. But I wanted to make sure that you had knowledge as to what the changes are, what's going on in the world, why, very, very soon it's not going to be called, the PMP 7th edition exam prep, because that's confusing. It's confusing for us to be like, PMI, what are you doing now? Come on, stop changing things. But continuous improvement, practicing agility, I mean, that's part of it, right? It's absolutely part of what we do in our day to day. So I'm trying to keep on top of it for you. Perfect world versus real world, obviously, in a class where you go through and learn concepts to pass an exam, there might be some aha moments, things that you want to take back with you and utilize. I know people that are now doing planning poker to size user stories, things that I teach in the mastery deep dives that are like, hey, this is working. This is really great. You will take away some best practices, but it is designed for exam prep, which is why I do the mastery videos also. Why do we need to have the ability to do this? And just like, Chris was saying, it's a universal skill. Professionally, personally, certifications are great because they show that you're lifelong learners, that you sat through it, you got through it, you passed the exam, hopefully above target, just like, all 3 domains, and really got a good surface level information about a variety of different best practices in project management. And then now what? What can I use or what can I pull in? And that's where they're sort of pointing you toward the 7th edition for strategy. They're pushing you toward the PMIStandards Plus for much more specific, succinct information on each topic. Even to parent, having this knowledge is useful. Pam saying, absolutely. And mine's 24 and I still have to project manager. No, just kidding. But you're right. These are best practices that are transferable no matter, and that was their original goal, was in the predictive environment where you can use these best practices in any industry, in any country, on any project at any time. And so now they're starting to evolve and say, okay, well, not every project benefits from heavy documentation and baselines. Yeah, even a parent having this knowledge use with 6 kids going in all. Oh my goodness, bless you, Pam. Bless you. Yeah, but as far as project management is concerned, it is a skill and it's weird. I don't know about you. Let me just chat in and let me know because I often find this to be the case when people ask me what I do. Do you have a difficult time explaining? Well, I'm a project manager, and they're like, okay, what is that? If you say software developer, they might have zero knowledge of software development, but they use software so they feel like they know what you do. Well, when I say, oh, project manager, or I teach project management, they're like, okay, well, so what does that mean? I'm like, every industry needs project managers. And I just read another article that PMI, I guess, put out. I can't remember who it was, but I think it was PMI saying that between now and 2030, the job openings or need for project management in any industry is like they were predicting 2.7 million job openings for project managers. And how many of you are still virtual? Are you virtual, hybrid, or are you back in the office, never left? Like what's your workspace like? Are you still virtual? And if so, do you love it? Some people are boots on ground. I want to go back to the office. You're hybrid, Natalie? Yeah. How many of you are still anybody virtual? You're back, Sherry. And is it good? Is it good to be back? You were only offline for 7 weeks, Pam saying, and that's sometimes driven by industry, right? Manufacturing, you got to be there. I want to go back home, Sherry says. I got, please let us stay virtual. So there is a lot of that going on too in project management. Is like, how do we navigate this? Please post pandemic type of way of working or business environments. It was our area, yeah. Then I have to go back and utilize some of these things. So we do discuss that, what are some of the best practices in a virtual environment? What are some best practices for, your team is distributed internationally? Those types of things, whether it's pandemic oriented or not, there's a lot of project managers that are either hybrid or still virtual or desperately want to go back home. I want to work in my slippers. But because of that influencing factor of agile, so let's say, all right, I have my PMP or I am a predictive project manager, but this agile thing keeps coming up in meetings. Or from the bottom up, it sounds interesting to me. If that's something that you just rather target agile instead of flipping back and forth, then you can take an agile class if you want. Transitioning to agile, you could certainly do that. The agile certified practitioner goes through a bunch of different common frameworks like Scrum, Extreme Programming. We talk about lean, we talk about Kanban, and then we go through the best practices. It is a cert, but a lot of people in that class don't come to get the certification. They come just for the knowledge, right? Microsoft Planner. Anybody using Planner? If you use 365, you have an app that you might not be aware of called Planner. And Planner is a task board program that integrates with Outlook. It integrates with OneNote. It's a way of practicing agility, but on the team level. So much like you use Teams maybe to interact, you can use a Planner. Yeah, it's awesome. Anybody using like Kanban or Scrum boards or task boards or a mass amount of Post-it notes like stuck to your walls, anything like that? Because if you're currently using some kind of pull or just-in-time scheduling system, you're going to love Planner. And MS Planner, it's kind of it's a short workshop. I think it's only 4 hours. I have a massive Kanban board with sticky notes. I love that. Yeah, I've definitely got a Post-it note problem. Planner works well. Yeah, so if you might not even know that you have it. You have to download the app. But if you've got 365, it's available for you. And I did like a pre-recorded workshop demo on it to show you how to use it. My bosses were like, hey, we want you to do a planner. We like for it to be 8 hours. And I went, 8 hours? No way. It's so easy once you know where everything is. It just won't take that long. The good news is it's intuitive once you know where everything is. The best way that I've seen people using Planner outside of their own individual, usage, that kind of thing, is like a help desk, IT help desk, where people are virtual or not, they're back in their office, but they use Planner. The ticket comes in, somebody grabs it, they know it's being worked on and that it's done. Another one comes in, they can prioritize it. your brain can process images 60,000 times faster than text. So it streamlines your workflow. It's awesome. Working with Kanban boards is, Planner is essentially a Kanban board. That's more of a demo. I use Trello. So if you're interested, you can use Trello. It's a free program online, Trello.com. But if you do have 365, Planner's the way to go. But you can certainly check out Trello. But I use that as a demo for Kanban boards. Those all count for PDUs. Some are shorter, some are longer, but it's up to you. This is your learning experience. This is your career. This is your professional development. My job is to help you get where you're trying to go, and I'm super happy and thrilled to do that. If that's something that you are interested in and you want to jump in, talk to Mike. He'll hook you up, and I'm just going to leave this up here in case you want to jot down his information. I love Trello. Me too, Anne. Sherry, can these tools be used for individuals or just for team sharing? No, you can use them as an individual. I use Planner just for me, because I have a Post-it note problem. They'd be hanging all over my studio. But no, you can use them individually for your own work, or you can add just like you can add people to like your Teams chat and things like that. You can add them to your planner if you want to, or you can keep it completely private. Same thing goes with Trello. Trello is completely private to you. They're your boards until you actually physically email somebody an invite. So I definitely use it personally for me to keep track of what I'm doing, what I'm working on. Nobody else is on my planner. So, but you can if you wanted to interact. So it's super easy. Once you figure out where everything is and how it works, it'll change your workflow, even if you're using like a Gantt chart. Because now a lot of these softwares like Project, Smartsheet, Jira, some of those that are being utilized by project managers now have both. They have the Gantt chart and they also have the Kanban approach, so that you can adapt and adjust. Oh, your stakeholder wants this in a Gantt chart, but you want to work in more of a just-in-time planner-esque Kanban board. You can now do both, but that's why Planner got added. So that's all I got. Do you have any questions for me at all? If you do, feel free to chat them in. This was recorded. If you think of something after the fact, feel free, just email me. Seriously, even if you've never been to any event of ours before, I'm here to help you. I also, when people start filling out their applications, I do application support. So I can review your PMP application or your CAPM or your ACP and just give it a second glance to make sure, because I know what PMI is looking for. So a lot of times people will shoot me their applications. So I'm really there with you all along the way, and especially to help you celebrate success when you pass your exams. So any question? Can I take the test for you? No. It's funny because some people are like, I heard your voice in my head. Well, no, don't choose that answer. Your fourth edition is out of date now then. Your fourth edition, your PMBOK Guide? Yeah, or your PMP. Because you can maintain your certification and never ever have to take the exam again if you don't want to. Yes, the application feedback was so I'm glad. And are all Stormwind webinars live in the link below? Oh, yeah, thank you, Colin. Yep, it's being recorded, so it'll be up and posted at that link. And there's a bunch of other ones that I've done too. So if you wanted to jump into those, you could certainly do that. Plus our amazing, technical instructors, like, wow, amazing. So absolutely check those out if you want to. And pretty much any webinar that I do can count toward your professional development units if you wanted to. Awesome. Any other questions? Because I don't want to keep you on a Friday. That would be rude, but I know that you took your time to spend time with me today and all of us, so I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully, I will see you in a class sometime very soon, or for those of you that have already passed your exams, it is an absolute pleasure to see you again, and you are all most welcome. Feel free to reach out. Oh, you're welcome. Feel free to reach out to me via email. You're welcome. Thank you so much. You guys are the rock stars, right? So hopefully I'll see you in a class sometime soon. If not, best of luck in all your professional endeavors. Feel free to ask any questions if you have them. Reach out to Mike. You might as well get a discount if you can. And, it's been a dream. You're welcome. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for everybody here at Stormwind Studios and PM Guru. However you came in, we appreciate it. All right, thanks, everybody. See you soon. Bye.